Hello everyone, this is Marco. I'm back with my This Is War series for UFC 195. Carlos Condit versus Robbie Lawyer, and I'm going to talk about the fight for between Brando and Ortega, or Diego versus Brian. And this was actually a really systematic fight in that Ortega had a really brilliant game plan. He knew that Diego, and if you haven't already seen the fight, Ortega won. Spoilers, he won by submission, and so I'll get into that a little bit. But the first round started off pretty strong for Diego. I actually thought he was gonna finish him, and Diego starts really, really strong in the early rounds. He's known as a blitzer. He just goes in there and just like goes axe murderer style, aka Vanderlei Silva. So he's from Brazil, so most Brazilians are pretty aggressive in terms of their stand up. So think of some of the others like Randall Silva, I just mentioned him earlier, Vito Belfort. So similar style to that. And so Brian Ortega was aware of that, and he really just weathered the storm. The first round, he was just really trying to keep his distance and not trying to get demolished. And so he did a good job of just holding his own. Diego slowed down dramatically towards the end of the first round. You could tell he maybe have blown his gasket a little bit too early. And Brian, he kept his distance, he kept working his strike. And overall, it ended, first round was Diego. Second round, Diego did similar to the same thing, but he wasn't as aggressive. And Brian started to pick his distance and started to get some good shots in. So it went back and forth, but I would give the second round to Diego. And in the third round, now this is where things went drastically different. Brian actually turned it up and then was the aggressor in the third round. He went after him, and it was clearly obvious that Diego was tied at this point, and he needed to win. Brian needed to win in order to get the victory, so he either needed to win by knockout or submission. And if you know Brian's background, Brian Ortega's background, he has a they're both black belts actually, but Brian Ortega seemed like he has a better jiu-jitsu in MMA than Diego, and as a result, he was able to push Diego against the fence, and he transitioned into a front headlock. And from there, he used the front headlock to try to get him underneath, and he rolled over into an anaconda choke. And if you're familiar with that in jiu-jitsu, you know what it looks like. And from there, he was trying to finish the anaconda choke, but Diego was able to get loose a little bit. And so before Diego could get loose completely, Brian switched to a full mount and got a guillotine. And so he was trying to finish a guillotine from full mount. However, it was not locked in completely. And from there, Diego was about to get out. And so Brian, being a really savvy jiu-jitsuist, he actually transitioned that guillotine into a triangle, and that's actually where he won. He won the match by a triangle. But if you see the combination of how he did it so beautifully, that's some really high level jiu-jitsu and MMA. And for him to go front headlock to anaconda choke to guillotine to triangle, and the transition to transition. If you ever see any high level jiu-jitsu match, high level jiu-jitsu practitioners, they're not good because they know one move. They're good because they know a plateau of move, and they're able to transition from one move to the other. So if they aren't able to catch you the first submission, they transition to another submission. If they can't get you in that, they transition into something else. So any good guard player, or 50-50 De La Riva, whatever you want to do, or top person, they're always transitioning to something else. So if they're not improving their position, they're transitioning into something else. And if they transition into something else and they can't finish, then they either improve their position so they can finish, or they transition to something else so they can't. So Brian Ortega really demonstrated that his high level jiu-jitsu in the way he finished the last match, because he needed to win in the third round because he was losing the first two, and Diego was already tired. So that was his best way of winning. So it was really testament to jiu-jitsu. And if you're a big jiu-jitsu fan like myself, then you would have loved just watching that. It was masterfully executed. So but overall, I'm curious to see where Brian go from here. Both of them are unranked or not in the top 10. So with this, Brian might move into the top 10, but we'll see. They're at a 145 weight class, which I believe, the 145. So that's a pretty competitive weight class. So we'll see where both of them go from here. So overall, I'm pretty excited to see who Brian might fight next, especially with his jiu-jitsu skills, and he has some good stand-up too. So you might need to work in that a little bit. So with that, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.